play Wonderwall. Okay. Oh, I didn't see you there. How long have you been there? Well, let's get started then. Hello there, Fabbers. As I am quite lacking in creativity right now, I thought that instead of making something new, I would take up your time by telling you about something that has already happened. So I took a weird Dromai Blitz deck to my local Skirmish this past weekend and ended up winning. As someone who plays a lot of class constructed, Landscape with Blitz is one that is very, very alien to me. But in my short time testing and through screams on the grapevine, I came to the conclusion that the usual slow big dragon deck that was usually the go-to choice for myself is I'm going to cut it. I decided to pivot more to the redline version of the deck, but then re-decided that I wanted more disruptive effects in the deck, so I settled on more of like an aggro beatdown sort of thing. Now, before I continue, I would like to caveat that this deck is almost certainly not at all in any way good, but barring that last sentence, I'm going to try and spend all of my efforts to convince you that it is. Firstly, let me tell you that this deck is really fun to play. It can really go ham and push out some huge turns. For most games, you want to go second with it, so you can just grab tempo straight away for free and just start smashing your opponent. To start off, we'll go through the armor that I used for the vast majority of games. We've got the Crown of Providence, the Flamescale Furnace, and the Wave of Reality. They're all in here for beefing up my life so that I can have that one pivot turn where I just block with armor, keep my hand, and try and hit hard. The snaps are in here for hands that have a lot of zero-cost chain enders. All these worked out really well. I took a gamble not having any main equipment that could make Ash, but I figured it should be fine over the course of such a short event, and it was. Only other thing to mention in the main suite of equipment is that the Crown of Providence was in here over Skullcap for enabling bigger turns and fixing my hand to allow for those big turns, and this did come up a lot, so thank you, Crown of Providence. Very quickly jump to the sideboard equipment. The Null Rune and Stilettos are for your wizards. Diadem was also for wizard just because it wards 2 and Crown is useless in that matchup, but I wanted to use it against aggro decks when I was going second as well. I played a Phi and the Diadem got me 2 Ponder tokens, which I think helped a lot because there are not a lot of blood draws off the Ponder in this deck. Overall, this card needs more testing, but I did really like it and it did well in that one game. Seeker's Mitts was in here because I couldn't think of anything else, and I also only brought 51 cards in total by accident, so I could have slotted in 2 copies of maybe a useful main deck card instead, which I definitely will going forward. Onto the main deck, we'll go over the dragons first. The dragons you see across the bottom of the screen there are the only ones that I played. I decided to only play the ones that actually did something and also didn't cost a lot. So no Yenderai, as in Blitz, he's just more of a vanilla 3 attack, as players are less likely to bother going for your dragons when they have a huge damage turn anyway. Having less dragons also meant that I'd be less likely to draw the dreaded all-dragon opening hand. I opted for 1 Thema and 1 Uvia, as they both have their uses, and I couldn't decide which one to play, so I played them both. For the zero-cost attack actions, these all performed well, except for, if I scroll down here, the Scar for a Scar, as I found that most of the time I was ahead in life, so a lot of the hands were a bit clunky because of it. So I'd probably swap it out for maybe a Billing Mirage or a Skittering Sands, but the Snatch, the Rabble, the Dust Up, they're all really, really good. For the 2-cost attack actions, we've got Nourishing Emptiness, we've got Cut Down to Size, Command and Conquer, and Red Embermoth Centipede. The CNC and Embermoth Centipede are fairly self-explanatory. CNC provides huge tempo swing when both players are starting 20 or less life, and Embermoth Centipede can bite out nearly half of a player's health. Nourishing Emptiness, which is down here. This pairs well with Burn Them All, as you can use Burn Them All to banish all your attack actions from grave. In testing, I found that the most effective plan for seeing out fatigue games was combining a live Nourishing with this monstrous card you see here, Pummel, because it just meant that you're pushing through 7 or 8 damage after you've got rid of your opponent's armor throughout the game. And on the day, Nourishing Emptiness just kept eating my opponent's armor, so it was really good. Another card to talk about is Cut Down to Size. It fits well with the cost curve of the deck, and with Flamescale generating you that extra resource, and it fits my desire to have more disruptive effects as it forces my opponent to have a smaller next turn. If you're forcing your opponent to play with a 3-card hand, there's not really much they can do, especially if you've got a board of dragons set up. It can be quite difficult for certain decks. This card really performed well in the day. The 2-block didn't hurt, and I think that's probably because Blitz is a shorter format, so you aren't really playing for the long control game anyway. So yeah, really good card. Not sure how it would do in CC, but it worked well for me here. On to now the interesting part of the deck. I've got 2 red and 2 blue pummels. This card was the star of testing. This is in here for the surprise factor, for killing and destroy my opponent's turn. I fit 8 2-cost attacks into the deck and 4 pummels, and this ratio was consistent enough. To play it out, you usually have to either arsenal the pummel or your 2-cost attack and then draw into whichever one of the pieces you need for completion, and you'd use Flamescale to pay for the pummel after pitching for the attack. Honestly, it just works really well in this deck based on the games played so far. You can really vary your playstyle mid-game based on like the hand you draw. If you have a full board of dragons, your opponent will often clear them, leaving you to swing with a CNC pummel, for example. The mix of wide board state and being able to go tall just worked out surprisingly well. It's also super fun to play and no one ever expects it. The look on their people's face when you attack with a CNC and they go, I'll just take the damage, and you know, oh wait, attack reactions. They're like, what? Dromai does that? The fun factor probably outweighs the actual good factor of it, but hey ho. For the generic illusionist stuff, we've got Lost in Thought. This card is just insane in Blitz. No one respects Dromai Blitz, so you don't really come across many poppers outside of Brute and Guardian, but when you do, Lost in Thought deals nicely with them. It also just disrupts so much more in Blitz because although they get the Ponder after losing a card in hand, they have less time to recover, and 9 times out of 10 they cannot use the Ponder. I've rarely seen a deck that successfully made use of that Ponder token, especially because you're ruining their hand and also maybe force them to block a bit. So really solid card into almost every matchup. The Passing Mirage, this was a side card for Guardian and Brute. Never got to play on the day as I didn't come across them. That may or may not be related to how well I did. And that's it really. Hopefully I've convinced you to take this monstrosity to your local skirmish. Matchups on the day were Fi, Azalea, Lexi, and Kano. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day.